Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer who lost a horse, ran away. And all the neighbors came around that evening and said, "That's too bad." And he said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back and brought 7 wild horses with it. And all the neighbors came around and said, "Why, that's great, isn't it?" And he said, "Maybe." The next day, his son was attempting to tame one of these horses and was riding it and was thrown and broke his leg. And all the neighbors came round in the evening and said, "Well, that's too bad, isn't it?" And the farmer said, "Maybe." And the next day, the conscription officers came around looking for people for the army, and they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. And all the neighbors came round that evening and said, "Isn't that wonderful?" And he said, "Maybe."
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to
Zen Farmer.
our Grassroots Recovery podcast. It's me, Kurt,
And Jenn.
and today we are blessed to be joined by a respected member of our community and a recovery advocate, Miss Suzanne McCullough. Hi, Sue.
Hi.
Welcome.
We're glad you're here.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining us. All right, folks. Suzanne is the director of the Penn Highlands Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. And she had just told me she's been in this position for, 18 years?
Oh. Yeah.
More or less.
More or less. Yeah. I've been a nurse in the neonatal intensive care unit for the last 35 years.
Wow.
Wow, bless you.
So I've seen a lot of changes
No
over
kidding.
the years.
Well, so thank you so much for joining us and offering your
welcome.
perspective on, what you've seen in our community and for the great work that you do. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
So if you want to walk us back, tell us what it was like when you first started the gig and maybe, how things have changed over the years. And
Sure. When I first started, we mostly took care of premature and sick newborns. They were term. When I walked into the unit, we had a lot of ventilated babies, a lot of really sick kids, and we never really saw any kind of substance use or really identified it. But as time moved on, we started doing reflux studies and things like that, and there was a period of time there where we'd have super fussy babies, and we did a reflux study, and of course we called it reflux and sent them home on a monitor and reflux medications and things like that. Maybe had one or two that we identified where maybe a parent was using a drug here and there, but in the last, it's 14, 15 or more years, we have noticed an increasing trend in moms with substance use disorder. And it really struck home with me a little bit.
yeah, I imagine. And of course, considering your proximity to these children, right?
Yeah, it did. So we had to have a great doctor, Dr. Hassan. He came to us and he started going out to the clinics, and he started advocating that moms, get MAT, very non-judgmental in his approach to them. You never intended on being in this place and things like that, and just walking them through the process of what would happen with their baby once it's born. And for years and years, we treated these babies with more scoring them with a Finnegan scoring system and things like that. But in 2019, the state of Pennsylvania came out with a Governor's Institute that I was invited to alongside of Elk County children and youth to sit at the table with. And there I met people from drug and alcohol. I met people from early intervention, parents as teachers, and things like that. And we sat at the table, and what that Governor's Institute was to start doing plans of safe care. So within those plans of safe care, I came back and we jumped on it here at Penn Highlands DuBois. We started a program where we would call, toward discharge or the last day of discharge. Everybody would come in and sit and meet, and people at the table would be mom or dad, mom and her support person. Could be her mom or a sister or anybody. And what we wanted to do was to make sure that mom had supports going home so that she could be successful taking care of her baby. So at that table was the parents. It was our case manager. It was sometimes myself. A lot of times early on in the beginning, I was right there in the process because needed to learn it, needed to understand it, needed to see what was happening, how moms were reacting to it. Our county youth agencies, our parents as teachers, our early intervention people, even WIC was all invited to the table, and any other service that was needed. When it came to drug and alcohol and mental health, everything is private. So we very quickly learned that we needed to do those services like early intervention and parents as teachers first, excuse them from the room, and then allow drug and alcohol and behavioral health to come in, because we needed to honor and respect these moms' privacies. And to have everybody gathered became intimidating to these moms, and we soon figured that out. So what we did was we started talking and started doing it early, piece by piece, and bringing them in. So, and then COVID hit.
Oh, jeez.
And then we had to regroup. And so we did a lot of these over the phone on web calls and things like that. And we lost the flavor of it. It was super hard because unless you're sitting across the table from somebody, how can you even begin to build trust? And that's what we had to do with these moms and these families. We needed to build trust in them. So a lot of learning along the way, a lot of
Trial and error.
Error along the way, a lot of changing how we do things to be more respectful, to be more sensitive to these moms, to their families, and things like that. Some of us have had experiences where with family members that they haven't been that great. And around the time that plans of safe care was developed in the state, I actually had a niece that had overdosed and died. And it was during the COVID years that I was able to actually go to the courthouse and sit and be her advocate while the person that had sold her last hits sat there waiting to be sentenced that day. And I talked about how it not only affects the person that's using, but everybody around them, about, everything that's done, everything that's said, because, they feel shame. Her hope was taken away when that carfentanil and fentanyl laced heroin was sold to her that night. She was supposed to go to rehab the next day. It took away all the hope she had, all the hope her dad had, till the day he died this last December. And, it totally affects the family too. The stigma that comes with it is the stigma that the family wears. And it's taken me a long time to even come to the conclusion that, they have a problem and they're dealing with it the best they can and they can overcome it. And I've seen those in my family overcome as well. And I'm so very proud of them at the same time. But it's a struggle for everyone. And until you work through that shame and that guilt of what could I do better, you don't have a clue where you're going and where you're starting from. So I sit with these women and I talk with them sometimes and I listen to their stories and I listen to the trauma that they've had and the rape, the abuse that they've experienced at such an early age, 10, 11, 12 years of age. And it's not a boyfriend or that their first encounter with drugs. Sometimes it's a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle. And it's just so amazing the stories that they have. And they need somebody to talk to. They need somebody to be able to listen to them and just sit there and listen and be in the moment with them and to just know that somebody out there cares about them and cares about them as a person. And that's what I've strived to do. That's what my caseworker at the hospital, my partner in the hospital, has tried to do. And then, over the years, we've worked on that. And somewhere in the last few years, we got a grant from to get a substance use disorder care coordinator. And we knew that we needed her from the very beginning because we started having multidisciplinary meetings in the hospital. And we did all these brainstorming charts and everything. And we knew we needed that one person that was going to bridge the gap from prenatal care to inpatient care and back home again after discharge. We needed that care coordinator or navigator so bad. So we got a grant. And it took a little while to get through, to get the program built, to get the behind the scenes, the paperwork and all of that going. Our first sub coordinator was really great at all of that. But our current sub coordinator, Shannon, she's just awesome with these patients. She started out working out of an office shared with our case manager. So they were able to bounce things back and forth between each other. What's best? How do we approach this person? They're not necessarily trusting us right away. What did we say? Did we need to say something different? Did we say something wrong that we shouldn't have said? Things like that. Just trying to recognize and build upon what we knew and everything, and trying to build that trust and respect and earn it from our moms, because we need them to trust us for us to be able to begin to help them. So Shannon probably is the person that you really need to interview here.
Shout outs to Shannon.
Woo!
Thank you for all that you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I was such a proud director. The day she called, she was in a visit, and where a patient hadn't disclosed to someone else that she had a plan to commit suicide. She had disclosed to Shannon, and Shannon had stayed with her that entire day. And like, Shannon was due back, and I should have seen her way earlier in the day and things like that. But Shannon stayed with that patient till she was admitted, and that patient is doing absolutely wonderful with her child and things like that. It's Shannon's going and meeting moms and sitting there on their porch with them, when they've missed an appointment, finding out what's going on, sitting and talking. She's embedded in our Healthy Beginnings now. And, it's sitting on a curb, literally on a curb, street curb, sitting and talking with a mom, and just finding out what's going on, and what they can do, and what will work for that mom. And that's invaluable, is to have somebody to go and is not afraid to go where these people live, or to meet them in a park, or somewhere, to drink coffee with, or that. So with Shannon, things have evolved. So we started with plans of safe care. Well, yeah, Shannon talks about, your substance use with you, and your trauma with you, and things like that. But she starts that plan of safe care early on, and so it's not so intimidating.
Yeah.
And we have things in place, and if you need rehab or anything like that, she'll go the distance and stay on the phone and work until she gets you there, and things like that. So the program has evolved. We've done better. We've done a lot better at recognizing trauma, at trying to be more conscious of not triggering a more stressful event. It's stressful to come in and have a baby, and to feel that people are going to look at you and look at you differently and maybe treat you differently. But, over the years, and we've done a survey, and we've had parents that, were in the unit 4, 5, 6 years ago come back, and they had a baby in the last couple years, and they said the stigma is going away. They feel it.
Yes.
They feel it. So that's our goal, and we're not afraid of feedback, good or bad. We're not. We want that feedback, because we can only learn from that feedback on how to work, and how to get you where you need to be.
So much, Sue. And just on that note, feedback, looking at it like data points, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're building so to speak, a computer, and we need it to function as optimum as it can in order to get these women the proper care that they need.
Mm-hmm.
When you had started out by saying, you were coming from more of like a holistic standpoint, community-based, by getting their family members and their close supports involved, it's impossible for me to imagine the feelings of an expectant mother. But if I could imagine, I would warrant that would make one individual feel extremely comfortable to have that sort of, these people really are looking out for me and my child, right? And when we enter treatment, if we're still using, we're already stigmatized of our own behaviors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to have that sort of backboard to play off from and recognize that, I can trust these people, because at the end of the day, we're here for our health and the health of this newborn baby. Thank you so much. This is wonderful.
This is wonderful, and I love your ability and your department's ability to see past the stigma and see the humanity in that person. All it takes is just one person to care about us, to make us think that, maybe I am worth it. maybe I can do this, and putting all those supports in place. This is really beautiful. I had no idea that this existed in our community. So I'm really grateful that you were here to be able to share this with everyone. Great information, and keep up the, keep on keeping on. This is awesome work you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. The struggle's real. We understand that. And, yeah, our whole goal is to try to keep families together. Sometimes the law prevents that, and we can't change the law, but with whatever we can do within our power, we can help these families stay together, or at least be on a road to get back
Yes.
and stay together and grow as a family.
Yes. So you're looking at the whole continuum of care.
We are. We are. And what's great too about our son is she follows these moms up to a year after delivery.
Wow, that's great.
So she checks in on them. They send her pictures
Oh,
of their
Yes.
babies.
I would love that.
So, she does a great job, and she's been able to, identify. And I don't think a lot of people realize or stop to think, you know, every mom that delivers, whether they have substance use disorder or not, they have the same possibility of having postpartum depression.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes that's overlooked. Shannon's identified it. But too, sometimes we're finding that, 40, 45, 60 days out, these moms are having a delayed postpartum depression, and nobody's looking at them. Their doctor's appointments are done, and unless they're seeing their family physician, or they have somebody close at home that's going to recognize it, or somebody that's checking in on them that's going to recognize it, they're going through postpartum depression. And how dangerous is that for them? And that's something that we don't want to happen. So we need to be watchful, and we need to be cognizant that they still have all of the same feelings that every mom out there has. They go through all of the same struggles and trials that every other mom out there goes through. But
Yes.
And in terms of this continuum, are there also included perhaps referrals to other services?
absolutely. So we'll refer to drug and alcohol. We'll refer to behavioral health. We will find them a rehab if they need to, whether it's an inpatient or an outpatient rehab. Anything that they need. If they need help, legal aid, we will get them the numbers for legal aid. And, we always include in our discharges and when needed, the PA 211 and, the suicide hotline and things like that, because you get out in the world and, okay, yeah, you're in a hospital and you've been in a safe environment and things like that. And maybe you get out and somebody or something stresses you, and you start to think and whatever. And you need a little bit of help. You need somebody to reach out to. So we try to provide them with all of those resources that they can reach out to when they're hurting, so that they can stay on track and maintain.
Seems like you have everything, all the bases covered. And it is nerve-wracking for any person for first bringing a baby home, first-time parent. Oh my gosh, yes. I'm sure Kurt can relate to that too.
Not too far out of the woods myself, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody goes through that sleep
Sure.
deprivation,
Yeah.
and
Fear. I mean, you're
Yeah.
afraid, and I could remember getting up. Is she still breathing? I mean, like all these things that run through your mind, and if you don't have the proper supports, it's real easy for things to get off track.
it is.
Hmm.
It is. And we just simply have to recognize that and give everyone the tools
Absolutely. Yes, it's
at
ultimately,
hand.
yeah, it's ultimately up to us to pick them up and use them, but you're laying them at their feet.
Right.
And the encouragement that continues to, like,
Yes.
hey, or we haven't seen you.
Mm-hmm.
How are things going? You know,
Right.
do you need help with anything? I mean, that right there is, again, we just need one person to care. That's it. And it sets off the spark.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're making a difference. It's really, this is really beautiful.
Thank you.
And I consider mothers of NICU babies to be extremely proud of that, right? You know, for having that experience and being a part of this other support network too, to wherein they can become, you know, someone that, say again, for example, another expectant mother could rely on, right? And this community just keeps growing. My wife posts a picture for NICU Awareness Week each year. So as a parent of a NICU baby myself, I know I just want to thank you for all the hard work that you guys do and how
You're welcome.
welcome and wonderfully we were treated while we were there. Yes.
You're
It was a
welcome.
wonderful department and speak on behalf of the entire maternity ward. You know, there really is that sense of this teamwork of achieving this goal of just health and wellness for these women and for their children, you know. Kind of looking at the standpoint of perhaps someone who may be using, and like I can recall a hesitancy towards just getting treatment because of simply the unknown, right? So we want to make the unknown at least predictable for people and what they can expect, right? And I think that would help reduce some of that hesitancy. At least, you know, all it takes is to meet somebody for the first time, right?
Right. That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you talk about team, and it's not just the NICU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're right. It's not just the NICU. It's our case management team. It's Shannon. It's, you know, our life's journey team. It's the nurses in both the maternity and the
Mhm.
NICU units, because when it comes down to it, they're the ones that are interacting with moms the
Correctly.
most and directly. And so, yeah, they're the ones that's making this happen.
It's babies.
It's lots of babies.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
It's
When I mentioned this on the podcast before, the mind-blowing experience I had when those kids were born. And that's when I realized this is what it is. This is like our biology at work here. You know, I just passed along a little torch, right? In an
Mhm.
effort to sustain humanity. This is so wild. So, I mean, that's where a lot of these efforts need to be looked into as far as, you know, what our substance abuse, what have you, as a whole is we are part of this league of people, right?
Right.
And this humanity. We have to encourage that and, you know, encourage support and people to look out for one another to whatever aspect that may look like, whatever respect.
amazing how far we've come with fighting stigma and the
Yeah,
changes, you
that
know.
really is the most wonderful thing to hear, right?
Unbelievable. I mean, I had my daughter. I was 11 months clean and sober when I had her. So, and I believe I wouldn't be sitting here if that hadn't happened. But she's grown up in a recovery environment. You know, she's never seen me use or drink or anything like that. But it also helps stop the cycle.
Yeah.
You know, so not only like by me remaining in recovery with the supports that were available and continue to be available to me, it has taught, because I've always been open and honest with her, and she's grown up. I mean, I used to take her to meetings when she was little, and we've always had open conversations about the dangers of even just drinking, you know. So my hope was to break that cycle, and, you know, I think we have a pretty good chance of that with her. So it's affecting even future generations, the work you're doing.
Absolutely. So, yeah, and that is my hope, is to break those cycles. We've seen such a rise in it, and we need to start seeing it going the other direction, decreasing.
And I think we're making some headway there for sure. It's not so you don't have the scarlet letter on you so much anymore. Like your
No.
person was right. The stigma is decreasing as we raise awareness and people in recovery become more visible to the community. We are out here, you know, because it's
You are out there, and you are functioning in many jobs.
Mhm.
I go places. I eat at restaurants. I shop and things like that. And I see people that have been through our unit and who have struggled, and it's like they're doing great. And every once in a while, somebody will come up to me and they don't say, and they don't have to say it, but hey, do you remember me? Look at my little girl,
oh
or things like that. And that's what makes your day. That's what makes what you do worthwhile.
amen to that.
So,
Yep, it is.
Look at what happened.
I know.
There's the baby
Yeah,
growing up,
growing up.
Right.
happy, healthy.
And
The
they're proud.
positive outcome that had on that individual's life.
right.
It's beautiful.
It really is. I mean, there you have it, folks. Support is available. We care. We want to help. And navigating these things, I think, is just kind of difficult when we don't know any better. We don't know what's available. Big reason for wanting to do this is to educate us a little more, educate our community on what is available, and that success is completely within the bounds of reason.
Yes.
It's just on us to want to have it and to have the courage to ask for it. It's totally available.
Yes, and there's compassion and understanding
Yes.
in all these agencies and departments and
Mhm.
community supports and
Right.
resources.
It's just made up of individuals just
that
like
care.
us. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just people.
Just
Right.
people.
We're all trying to figure something out. So
That's
I mean,
right.
yeah, it's, keep the big picture in mind and go for it.
Keep working towards it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
That's good.
Anything else like that? What do you see for the future of the coming years, and as you've been able to track, this decades of data and how education has changed, and if you could foresee where you think it might be going, and would that include more engagement with different services, or how technology might play a part in it? Just your thoughts.
I hope we see more engagement with different services. I hope we see services continue to come together and meet on the same page, the same level of understanding. My hope is that, when nurses are going through college, that their classes include that trauma-informed care, because those are things that we never had when I went through nursing school. Psych was optional and things like that, but I think there are some core things that need to be added to curriculums, in all colleges, and maybe more than just the medical field, but learning to understand and be compassionate from one human being to another. Those are difficult skills for a lot of people.
Mhm.
They're hard skills to learn. They are the hardest skills.
I think either you have it or
To
you
learn.
don't. So if you don't
So-
have it, trying to learn it
Right.
is difficult.
Right. But without that education, and yeah, those of us that are in this world, that are working with those with substance use or who have had substance use, we see it, we understand it. We get that piece of it, that you have to have compassion, you have to have understanding, and you need to know what trauma informed care is. You
Mhm.
need to know, what stressors and triggers and things like that mean. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand that. So growing as a society. And, my hope is that, I know we have a governor's task force for opioid dependence, but it goes beyond opioid dependence out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other substance use out there.
We see more meth now than anything, I would say.
Absolutely. So like, we need to quit being so myopic and so focused on one thing and
Yes.
see the problem as a whole
Mhm.
and start treating it as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And that's my hope. That's where I wish it would go.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right.
Welcome.
Well, hold on. I'll show you my picture. They're turning 3 on July 5th. The redhead right here. He was our NICU baby.
Oh,
Little Waylon. Just a couple of days, you know. But again, so fantastic, and I'll
Thank
never
you.
forget the memories of giving them their first baths there. And,
Oh yeah.
and how much fun we had. And I remember the nurse
You're
kept
so
kept
careful
calling
with
him kept calling him Little Mister.
Little Mister.
Yeah. Oh, Little Mister, get behind your ears. Yeah. Of course, I'm gonna
So
laugh about that
precious.
forever. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
cute.
Just those very first memories. with
Yeah.
them, right. I mean, they're
Right.
days old, brand new baby. How
Right.
exciting! Yeah,
Right.
awesome.
You got the
Yeah.
brand new baby smell.
Oh.
Oh, I miss that
Only a
smell.
couple of miles on this, 0 miles really for a
Zero.
while, I
Yeah.
guess. Probably about 1,000 between now and last week.
Oh, I'd
between
say.
them, yeah, almost 3, right? Oh, it's a blessing, man.
Mhm.
I'm so happy to be a father now, and and this was during my active addiction. This is what I'd always really wanted, was to pursue my biology and to have these children come into the ether from wherever it is that we come from. But I wanted to have that, Thankful every day.
It is.
So
It's
it's
one of the
ama-
greatest
it's
honors
amazing,
of our
yes.
lives.
It's a
Yeah.
blessing
Yeah.
to have children.
Oh, it is.
So much fun.
It
Mhm.
is. The love you have for them is just unmatched.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Well, again, Suzanne, thank you so much.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
this was amazing. Really
Absolutely. I
appreciate
learned
it.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's anything else we'd like to add before we send it home.
Send it home.
No,
All right.
I think we're good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
All right, everybody. We love you. Have a wonderful day.
Love
and
you
we'll
guys.
see you next time
See you next time.
on
Zen Farmer.
Bye-bye.